I've been wearing this solid brass Carpenter Field Watch for over a year and have some great details to go over. Gotta first start out with an apology that I'm reviewing a watch that is sold out forever, but that's one of the coolest details about this brand is the limited and unique production of about 150 pieces, including a new one that should be coming out soon. More details on that later. So let's get in the review of the Field Watch. Here's the Carpenter logo that we're going to be seeing in a couple other places. And I had been waiting months for this watch to arrive, so to open this box for the first time was pretty awesome. Pull out the second black box with another paper sleeve, revealing the awesome wood box with the laser-etched Carpenter logo in that. The box has an awesome magnetic click open to it, and the watch just lays really nice in that custom foam insert. I don't keep the watch in this box just because of the curve that the band naturally has after wearing it, but it holds the watch and this awesome little spring bar tool that also has a Carpenter watch logo in that. Nice little touch, along with the user manual, some details about the brand, and the authenticity card, and a business card from Neil Carpenter, the owner and designer. It took me a second to actually read the serial number and comprehend that it said 001/150. I had number 1 of the M3 production, which was amazing, and it matches the serial number on the rear too. Such a special piece that I'm so happy to have. Now, looking at the case back is one of the very few critiques, and that is how shallow the laser etching is. I do wish it was a little bit deeper, kind of a coining, similar to this watch back, but I can understand it's pretty hard to do with individual serial numbers. Now, one thing that is not shallow is the signed crown. I think it's kind of an understatement to call it signed because it is just super, super deep, and that's not an ink inlay. That is all oxidizing, just like on the buckle, also really nice and deep. I love wearing this watch. Every time I pick it up, I just notice its uniqueness and its form that it has, and it's really a good blend of kind of vintage inspiration, but still feels like a modern watch. And it just has a nice kind of pocket watch, bubbly domeness to it all over. It's really soft from afar, but then you get up close and you notice a lot of the little details going on with the markings. This is where things get really special. There's 14 unique versions of face, hand, and case combinations. This version has a white date back to it, but there's another version with black. The little brass trim ring around that date window just catches your eye when you roll it around. And the matte black dial just makes everything pop off of it. The sapphire crystal rolls right into the case back without any steps or bezels or any interruption. It just flows right into the sides and then continues to the stainless screw down back, so it won't irritate your wrist at all. Now let me just take a second to totally nerd out about these lugs. Here is a simple weekender for comparison. See, they're kind of the same shape. These lugs go straight from the case out and in, so who cares, right? But the Carpenter lugs go from this wire form and then curve straight into the band in a continuous form, and all of that out of brass, which must be a lot harder to get the right amount of strength. The areas between the lugs and behind the strap don't really get a lot of wear to them, so you can see they are patinaing a lot more, almost crusting over, which is pretty cool. If you don't like that patina, there's a full stainless version of this case that will look fresh for days on days. But I kind of appreciate how this grows. I'm not going to touch on the movement much besides the fact that it's been reliable, keeps good time, and looks nice. My one negative point is the screw in the center. Just the flathead looks a little bit cheap compared to other versions. As mentioned before, that sapphire crystal flows right from its peak down to the edge and into the case without any sort of bezel or exposure to the side. Now compare that to kind of a typical vintage looking domed glass. They have a slight dome to the top and then a steep fall off. The Carpenter watch has a sapphire lens to it, so it will not be getting scratched up like this one. Comparing it to another favorite field watch, you can see that the face and dial design is kind of similar, but the cases couldn't be more different. The Seiko's sharp edges contrast a lot compared to the soft, subtle edges of the Carpenter. So I guess I'll have to keep both. I always like to show how some different strap options can change up the way a watch looks. This black on black option looks a little bit more formal, and it actually makes the brass pop out a little bit more. This flannel and leather strap is a new favorite from Bristol. It's actually flannel on top stitched to a leather back. It's beautiful, but that added thickness makes it a little bit more difficult to just slide it through like you would with a normal NATO strap. You have to remove the spring bars, hold it down, and then install them while it's on the back. It adds a little bit of thickness again here, so the watch sits a little bit higher on your wrist, but the curves work out well and it can still wrap around your wrist pretty easily. From afar, it looks a little bit like suede, but there's definitely some depth to the flannel, and that depth is increased even more when it's paired with that brass. The kind of green undertones in the brass play really well with the nice deep green flannel here. And lastly, my favorite, the Worn and Wound Model 1. It's a kind of similar in color to the stock strap, but it's just gotten a lot more time and a lot more wear to it. Definitely thicker and just more worn in. The one disconnect of this strap is the silver buckle kind of clashing with the brass. Now, if you're shopping for one of these watches, you might be cross-shopping with a Shinola Runwell, which is somewhat similar in design and price, but the biggest difference for me not going with the Runwell is that it's not solid brass, it's just plated, so you won't get that same patina. It's not a mechanical, and it's just not as, I guess, rare and unique as the Carpenter watches are. Now, Shinola is an awesome brand. Don't want to discount them for that. They've done great things for the American watch brands, but it just didn't fit the exact features that I was looking for. One last thing, I mentioned at the beginning about a new watch coming out, and I think it will be something like this. There's a few images floating around the internet. Looks like a ton of variations, and definitely a little bit smaller, maybe more like 36 or 38. So can't wait to get my hands on one of those and review it for you guys. Until then, let me know if you guys have any other questions. All of the links for the products and straps that I reviewed today should be listed in the links below.